Hi everyone, this is Selvi. Today's interview question is how to decide the length of the sprint. Length of the sprint is the number of days that the sprint is getting executed. It can be of a week time, 2 weeks or 3 weeks. Now the question here is how are we deciding whether to go ahead with 1 week sprint or 2 week sprint or 3 week sprint? Mainly two reasons. One is if we are looking for very quick feedback cycles, then we may need to go for shorter sprint cycle. Second one is when we don't have much clarity of the work items and our product backlog is not yet in a refined state or it is not yet in a better shape, then we will also go for shorter sprint cycles. Now let's try to understand these 2 points little bit in an explanatory way. First thing is, business is looking for some of the functionalities, but they want to quickly review it and immediately pass the feedback so that whether to continue the same functionality or we need to drop that functionality. If that kind of decisions are pending and still we are not yet clear about what is the requirement that we are going to implement, and we are looking for some quick development and immediate feedback so that we will be able to take a decision. If we are looking for that kind of options, if we are in that kind of product stage, then it is better to go with a shorter sprint length. On the other side, let's take from product management team, we know that for MVP release, minimum viable product release, what are the requirements that we are going to target, and all the related user stories of that requirement implementation are available in the product backlog, and regular refinement sessions are happening, and team is very much aware of what they are going to implement. In that case, team has a very defined scope and they know the product roadmap, what is their target for MVP, and all the things are pretty much clear. So now it is all about we pick up the items in the priority, deliver it at the end of the third week, that is on the sprint end, get it reviewed and get the feedback from the business, and then if there are some enhancements or some kind of review comments that are coming, we need to implement that in the upcoming sprint and review our upcoming work items also as part of the sprint review. So here it is very simple because as a team, we know that what we need to work, and it is also very easy for the business because they are also very much sure that what is the target for MVP. Until and unless if there is some deviation happening in the sprint execution, we may need to change some priority and the order. That is the only catch in 3-week sprint. So here the advantage of 3-week sprint is we are very much clear about the work items and we know the complete flow and we know that what is the order we need to execute. So it is very much easy. So more and more clarity on the product backlog and good product backlog health. When we will be having good product backlog health? When there are more refined user stories or more refined work items in the product backlog. So if that is the situation, then we can pick up 3-week sprint. Whereas on the other side, as we mentioned, we are not so sure. We are still in the deciding stage. We are not having the complete clarity whether we will be taking this approach or whether we will be dropping this approach. Entire decision is going to happen by reviewing the working product at the end of our first week. So better not to spend so much time like 2 to 3 weeks implementing so many things and then deciding, oh, this is not the one that we need. Why we need to spend this much time? We need to drop it. So 3 weeks effort is going to be wasted. Instead, here we are going to have very minimum time, that is a week time, and we are showing the working product as the review. And when in the review, the feedback is coming and the decision is happening. No, let's continue. Looks like this is interesting and even business is also happy about this implementation. Let's continue. Then next week also it will be getting continued. So here, even if you are dropping, it is only a week time. So it is going to help the team as well the business from the time management point of view, as well to enhance the product backlog. with the work items. The second one is, we talked about the feedback cycle, we talked about the product backlog. So feedback cycle, when it is immediately required, we need to go with shorter sprint length. When we are completely clear and we are pretty much sure that, okay, at the third week I can review with my business, then we can plan it for longer sprint length. Now, what is the important challenge? So we know that how to select now. If my product backlog is of a good shape and I am having complete clarity and I know the complete target, scope, everything is completely clarified, just I want to execute the sprints in the way that we have planned, and if there is small deviation here and there, then we need to check about the priority with the product management. Then better to go with long sprints, long length of 3 weeks. When we are still in a situation of deciding, and every feedback cycle is very important to quickly take the decision whether to proceed or to drop. If we are that kind of situation, to get the feedback immediately because our product backlog is not of so stable, in that situation better to go with shorter length of sprints. Now we know how to decide now, but there is a catch. If we consider three Scrum events, mainly the sprint planning meeting, the sprint review meeting, the sprint retrospective meeting. These three, if it is a week sprint, it will happen within a week. We need to plan these three events also. If it is for 2 week sprint, it is still manageable. For 10 days, we will be doing these three events. If it is 3 weeks sprint, then we will be doing for 15 days once only these three events. So if we are having weekly sprint, we need to spend time for sprint planning, sprint review and sprint retrospective every week. So it is an additional time consuming thing. Whereas if it is for 3 weeks, 3 weeks once only we will be doing the sprint planning, sprint review and sprint retrospective. Alright, so 15 days once only we are going to spend some time. Whereas if it is 10 days, 2 week sprint, it is going to happen 2 weeks once only. The sprint planning, sprint review and sprint retrospective is going to happen. So we need to really see whether it is very important to go with 1 week or not. Because in 1 week, why I have not talked about sprint, daily stand-up meeting and the backlog refinement meeting is, these two things are going to happen. Whatever may be the length of the sprint, every day we need to do the daily stand-up meeting, and backlog refinement meeting is all about your product backlog health, right? But sprint planning, sprint review, sprint retrospective is compulsory for every sprint. If it is for 1 week, we need to do it in 1 week. If it is for 2 weeks, 2 weeks once we need to do. 3 weeks means 3 weeks once. So we are going to consume good amount of time for all these events. So if it is a week sprint, then considering our Scrum events, we will be taking some time, and our backlog is also not so healthy. So we need to sit for backlog refinement meetings more. So again, that is going to consume good amount of time. Daily stand-up meeting is a daily rhythm, that also we need to do. With all these things, we will be getting some time to implement certain things, because already a week time is going to be very short. So we need to really cautious before taking this call of a week sprint, because Scrum events are also going to take good amount of time. That is the reason, instead of taking 1 week, let's go with 2 weeks. That's a general thing we generally follow. The reason is, we will at least get some kind of breather here, right? Because 2 weeks once we will be doing the sprint planning, sprint review and sprint retrospective. Backlog refinement, of course, based on the product backlog health we will be doing, and everyday daily stand-up will be going. At least we will get some time to implement certain things. 1 week is very short for any team to implement any functionality, because it's like sprint started and is going to end. Similar to that it will happen, and on that we need to plan all these things. So 2 weeks means at least we will get some space. So to select between 1 week and 2 weeks, we need to be really careful. The reason being 1 week is going to be very, very short, and 2 weeks is going to be, at least we will get some breather. So even though our product backlog is not that great and we are still in the situation of deciding the things whether to continue or drop some functionality based on the feedback cycle, we need to really see whether we need to go to that level of 1 week sprint where we will be getting very, very minimum time, or can we go ahead and plan something for 2 weeks so that we will at least get some time to implement certain things. 3 weeks is very much safe. You know most of the things and you don't want to have too many meetings in between, too many Scrum events coming into picture. You want to have a free flow of 3 weeks so that team can completely concentrate. They have complete clarity. They don't have any kind of issues. They just simply go ahead and execute the sprint. We will go ahead with 3 weeks. Whereas 1 week and 2 weeks, we need to really take a separate call. 1 week, as it is going to be very, very short, are we really looking for that? Or can we go ahead and use 2 week sprint so that we will get some extra time, considering the time what we are going to consume for these Scrum events. Even though the problem statement is going to be same for both, we are not so having clarity about what we are going to do. We are still in a situation to decide based on the feedback cycle whether to execute or drop. So all those situations are common here. But 1 week means it's very, very short. 2 weeks means at least we have some time. So based on that, we need to better to go with 2 week sprint if there is at least a backlog that can be managed for a 2 weeks. In a situation, no, not at all that is possible, because there is no such situation of going ahead with 2 week sprint, because we don't know what we will be able to work and our goal itself we cannot define it. Then we should go in 1 week sprint. Hopefully this episode would have helped many of us in understanding how to decide the length of the sprint. So in a nutshell, based on your product backlog stability and the clarity of the work items that we have in the product backlog, that is the product backlog health, how much we have achieved. In addition to that, what is the frequency of the feedback cycles that we are looking for? Based on that, we should decide on this. Only thing is, more and more shorter the length of the sprint, we need to consume that all the Scrum events are again going to consume good amount of time. So we need to be really careful before picking 1 week or 2 week sprint, because 1 week is going to be very, very short. So in those cases, better to go with 2 week sprint so that you will get some breather to manage it. As you have complete clarity to manage it for 3 weeks, that's always an option. You can pick up and just execute the 3 weeks so that you know that complete clarity of the items can flow in its own way, and you will also be saving the time for the Scrum events, because 3 weeks once only you will be having all the Scrum events happening, other than the daily stand-up and the backlog refinement which will be happening. Daily stand-up being on every day and backlog refinement based on the product backlog health. At least we will be able to consume less time for this sprint review, retrospective, and the planning meeting in 3 week sprint. So this is the topic that I want to discuss. Hopefully this would have helped many of you. Thanks everyone for listening. Happy learning and stay tuned.